Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar, and we are here uh, for a webinar by Margi Makad. And let me introduce Margi. So Margi is holding a bachelor's in food and nutrition from MS University, Vadodara. Right now, she's pursuing masters in nutrition and dietetics with specialization in clinical nutrition and dietetics from Symbiosis School of Health Sciences, Pune. Uh, in her bachelor days, she has been actively volunteering and apart from pursuing various internships, she has also worked with various pediatric clinics, hospitals, and health centers. So that is the professional, I would say educational background. Apart from this, Margi has also been part of the Eat Right India movement. So this is something I would request Margi to share what this movement is all about and what is the purpose, what has been her contribution, and how we all can know more about this campaign and get benefited. Uh, Margi, apart from being a nutritionist, she is an active speaker. She has conducted various webinars. Uh, and this is Margi's second webinar for our community. So the first one was indeed successful, and thank you so much for that. And here we are with the second webinar from Margi. So thanks, Margi. Thanks for joining in and taking initiative to deliver this talk. I welcome you on behalf of TMI community. I welcome everyone, all the participants. We are about to start the webinar. I would request you to kindly keep yourself on mute. We would have question and answer towards the end of the session. And in case if you have any questions, so feel free to put your questions and queries in the chat window. We would be happy to take your questions at the end. Thank you so much for your cooperation and time. Let us welcome Margi with a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thanks, Margi. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chintan sir, for this wonderful introduction. Very good evening to everyone. My greetings to the TMI community and everybody else who has joined in. I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy. And I would really like to thank Chintan sir and entire TMI group for once again giving me this opportunity to share my bunch of knowledge and experiences in the field of nutrition, dietetics, and health. And regarding the Eat Right community, Eat Right movement, which you had asked, Chintan sir, it was a part of my bachelor's last year. The movement was organized by FSSAI, which is the Food Authority of India. So, wherein we went to different districts of Gujarat, naming Bharuch, Bardoli, Surat, and we educated the children in government schools regarding general dietary guidelines, what all foods they should eat, what they should not eat. So it was just an initiative taken by the government and our college and my class, and I was a part of it. And September, okay, so I'll start sharing my screen first. Can you guys see the presentation, the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, now it is visible in Mumbai. If someone can down south confirm.
Yes, we
Yes, it is visible.
Delhi
Yes.
visible.
Visible,
Thank you
visible.
so much. Thank you so much.
Ravi, visible.
Okay. September being the National Nutrition Month, which is declared by the Government of India, the theme for today's webinar, which I decided, was Eat Right, Bite by Bite, and this is the theme. This is the theme for even the National Nutrition Month organized by the Government of India. Now, to start with, when it comes to eating right, all of us have different perceptions, different ideas, different ideologies. Many of us would think that eating right is basically depriving our body with all the good food that is available. Or some of us might think that eating right is eating completely tasteless, bland food, bina namak, bina chini, bina tel ka khana. and to name a few definitions. But the real concept and the idea behind eating right is selecting the right quality and consuming them in right quantity. And of course, without compromising on your taste buds, because I believe that we as Indians can never ever compromise on our taste buds. And when diet or nutrition comes into picture, there is always this myth or notion that is associated that nutritious food or healthy food is always boring, it's always tasteless, it's always bland. And whenever a person is put on diet, he or she is starving. But it is very, very opposite. Trust me when I say this as a nutritionist, when we give a plan or a diet to a specific person, it involves more of eating and more and not starvation. So dieting is not starvation, eating healthy is not starvation is what I would like to start with. Now all of us know that the world is facing the biggest pandemic of all times, and it has put a spotlight on the importance of nutrition in combating various diseases, because there's no vaccine discovered, there's no medications discovered yet, and all of us are running behind building up our immunity with the help of nutrition. And the common words which we hear nowadays are coronavirus, immunity, of course, diet and nutrition, lockdown, and this quote that let food be the medicine and medicine be the food. We have been hearing this quote since a very, very long time. But the pandemic made it very crucial to understand the impact of nutrition, the impact of unhealthy dietary lifestyle and habits on nutrition and immunity. And I'm sure all of us must have undergone at least some kind of a change during this lockdown period. So here is one small activity that I had planned for you all. So all you have to do is think of one lifestyle change or dietary habit or eating habit that you have changed during this lockdown period. It can be positive or it can be negative. For example, it can be ruining your sleep schedule. It can be drinking a lot of water. Anything that you think is a change according to you. And all you have to do is you have to type it in the chat window. We can have a discussion in the end, and I would really appreciate more responses on this activity. Now, moving ahead, why is good immunity important? Why do we need a good immunity? Why can't our body survive without immunity? So, of course, good immunity plays a vital role. It protects our body from harmful substances, germs, and cell changes that can make you ill. It is your body's first and last line of defense. Immunity is your warrior. Anything which comes in your way, there is a immunity which can suppress it, which can suppress the infections or the diseases. And basically, a strong immunity is everything you need to prevent or manage any kind of disease, infection, or sickness. And we all know that there are various factors which can affect immunity, like age, which is an inevitable process, the stressful lifestyle, the stressful jobs, late night work, travel, everything can affect our immunity. And additionally, the immune system tends to get weaker and weaker as we age. So it is very, very important to invest in it through the daily choices that we make in our life. Now, moving on to the four pillars of immune system. The four pillars are emotional detox, balanced nutrition, quality sleep, and adequate exercise. Again, building immunity or immune system is not an overnight process, and it is not only based on one parameter. It's not like if I'm eating healthy, my immune system will good. If my other three parameters are not good, my immune system will not be in a proper condition. That is why the word system exists here. It is a holistic approach. You cannot only focus on one parameter. You have to focus on all the four parameters. That is emotional detox, having a balanced nutrition, getting quality of sleep, and adequate exercises. So moving on to the first pillar, which is balanced nutrition. I like how Rujita Devekar, that is one of the celebrity nutritionists, has put up in one of her books that we take care of our cars more than we take care of our body. We often fuel our cars with petrol, diesel. Why? Why do we fuel it? Because it runs efficiently. But do we do the same with our body? Just think about it. So all these findings that I'll be proposing ahead, these are research based and these are not predictions. So to start with, eating a balanced diet and enough nutrients is definitely required for health and functioning of the cells, which also include immune cells of our body. Diets that are low in nutrients and which are high in processed foods, packaged foods can negatively affect a healthy immune system. And owing to the transition towards modern lifestyle, all of us are moving towards a Western diet that is rich in sugar, processed foods, red meat, and low in fruits and vegetables, which can again promote disturbances in the immune system. And For our immune system to work efficiently, it requires certain vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. And some of them, like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, C, minerals like copper, zinc, manganese, selenium, and iron play a very, very important role in supporting the entire immune system. Moving to the second pillar, that is adequate sleep. Sleep is your armor, and here when I talk about sleep, I am not talking about the quantity of sleep, I am talking about the quality of sleep. It is not like if you sleep for 12 hours, but the next day you wake up feeling sluggish, feeling tired, feeling cranky. I'm sorry, but that is not a sound sleep, and that is what not I call a quality sleep. So adults need 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep to maintain a healthy life and immune system. Having less than 5 hours of sleep is associated with higher mortality and can have short term and long term health consequences. Poor sleep can increase the chance of infections and diseases like blood pressure, insulin resistance, which is nothing but diabetes, cortisol. It can increase your stress level hormones. There's weight gain and cardiovascular diseases, which can affect the immune system. So research has also shown that people who are sleep deprived or are consistently missing out on quality sleep are not more likely to get sick. But after they are exposed to a certain kind of virus or infection, their body takes longer to recover when they are hit with an illness. So of course, adequate amount of quality sleep is very, very essential for maintaining a healthy immune system. Moving to the third pillar, that is adequate exercise. Now, here I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the TMI Walkathon too. I know this because my dad is a part of, which encourages people to walk as a part of their daily physical activity. So, of course, any kind of physical activity, be it yoga, Zumba, gym, walking, jogging, anything, it is one of the main pillars of healthy living, and it provides protection against a cluster of diseases, which in turn promotes good health. The more you exercise, the more good circulation, which allows the cells. So our body is basically made up of cells, which are the basic units of life and which performs all the functions of our body. So the more the good circulation, the more the cells can move freely, the more your body can efficiently do their job. And regular moderate exercises reduces the risk for infection compared with a sedentary lifestyle. I believe that exercise is not a punishment of what you ate last night, but it is a celebration of what your body can do. So don't indulge into exercise thinking that, oh, I ate a pizza yesterday, I need to burn it out. No, do it for yourself. And again, think of your capacity. Do not get influenced. If a person is working out for 2 hours, but if you can work out for 30 minutes, it's fine. Any kind of physical activity you feel comfortable is very, very important to do. Do not strain yourself, is what I would like to advise here. Moving on to the fourth pillar, that is emotional stress, very, very relevant to the current situation that we all are living in. And the stress is everywhere. There's stress in job, there's stress for students working from college, working from home, attending online classes, giving exams. Everywhere, like stress is a major, major component. But when the stress remains constant, it can have a negative impact on our immune system. So excessive stress can weaken the immune system, making us more prone to infections. And when we are stressed, the recovery is also very slow and the immunity is suppressed. The immunity is not able to function very well. And when the stress remains constant, our body's flight or fight reactions are getting turned on. We are exposed to stress hormones, that is cortisol. And because of this, the immune system stops responding. There's inflammation, there's infection, which can result in numerous disease ahead. And of course, to overcome stress, we resort to very unhealthy strategies like smoking, alcohol, eating too much of processed foods and unhealthy foods. So I have an exam tomorrow. I'm very stressed. I binge eat a packet of chips. I have a presentation tomorrow. I'm very stressed. I binge eat a whole tub of ice cream. So we resort to such unhealthy strategies, which can again have a negative impact on our health. I'm not telling that stress can be completely avoided, but definitely we can find ways in which we can reduce stress. It can be through exercises, it can be through practicing meditation, it can be through talking to your colleagues, friends, having a good social environment. All of us can at least help us overcome the stress that we live in. And now here is a question. Can immunity be built in just one day? Just think about it. Today I'm eating good, I'm sleeping good, I'm emotionally happy, and I've exercised enough. But from tomorrow, if I don't do that, does that mean that my immunity is perfect? Like I mentioned, immunity is not an overnight process. You need to be consistent. It takes a lot of time for our body to adapt to the immune system and to make our immune system very, very strong. So make sure that From the day you start, you be consistent, you be patient, you be motivated towards developing your immunity. And it is not an overnight process. It cannot be done in one day. One day you're drinking garlic shots, one day you're drinking lemon juice, and you think your immunity will be better. No, that is not the question here. Now, coming to the talk of the town, I'm sure everybody must have Googled this immune boosting foods throughout this entire lockdown of the pandemic. What are the immune boosting foods? Because we have been hearing this a lot. So, like I mentioned, there are certain nutrients which play a very, very key role in maintaining our immune system. And here I've listed down the rich sources of those here I've listed down the rich sources of those nutrients. If you wish, you can take a picture of the following slides for your reference ahead. So vitamin A and all these nutrients are antioxidants. They help our body to fight infections. They help our body to overcome the diseases and are very, very helpful in boosting our immunity. So to start with vitamin A, amaranth, which is nothing but ragi, there's spinach, there's sweet potato, there's carrot, that is gajar, papayas, that is liver of chicken or fish or anything, eggs, pumpkin, mango, red bell peppers, which is red capsicum, and there's broccoli. Vitamin C, now fruits which are especially citrus fruits like orange, kiwi, lemon, amla, strawberry, tomatoes, cauliflower, broccoli, and again green and red capsicums are very rich sources of vitamin C. Vitamin E, now vegetable oils such as sunflower oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, almonds, peanuts, hazelnuts, spinach, broccoli, and some fortified foods are again very rich sources of vitamin E. Moving on to the trace minerals which are essential, we have zinc. So there's wheat, there's quinoa, there's rice, there's oats, dark chocolate, eggs, milk, and cheese are good sources of zinc. Nuts and oil seeds like almonds, peanuts, cashews, pumpkin seeds, and sesame seeds are good sources. Chickpeas, which is nothing but chole. All the dals and beans that are available in our kitchen are rich sources of zinc. There's meat and shellfish, which are also are rich in zinc. Moving on to selenium, we have shellfish, beef, turkey, chicken, fortified cereals, which we get in the market. There's whole wheat bread. There are again beans and dals and lentils which are available, and Brazil nuts. And protein. All of us might be little familiar with the protein term. So milk, cheese, yogurt, egg, paneer are all rich sources of protein. Again, all the dals, pulses, legumes are rich sources. Then chicken, lean meat, beef, and seafood like fish. Tofu is nothing but a vegan alternative of paneer, which is made up of soya bean, and of course nuts and oil. Another very important vitamin is vitamin D. So now our body makes vitamin D. Sorry, there's a typing error here. Our body makes vitamin D when it is exposed to ultraviolet rays, that is the UV rays which comes from sunlight. So it is very essential to go at least out for 20 to 25 minutes and take the sunlight and absorb the vitamin D that you can. And of course, it is present in some food sources which include fatty fishes such as salmon, tuna, mackerel, fish liver oil, egg yolk, milk, etc. Again, there are fortified whole grains and cereals which are available, and butter, cheese, milk, and tuna are also rich in vitamin D. Now, the Indian spice box or masala dabba for immunity. I believe that we as Indians are very, very blessed to live in a country which has so much diversity in food, and it provides us sustainable nutrition. So the Indian spice box is full of immunity, and to start with, we have turmeric, which has healing properties. It protects against virus, bacteria, and infection. There's ginger, which is a patent remedy for cold and cough, and it is a powerful immune booster. There's black pepper, which has an antimicrobial properties. It prevents infections and keeps a check on your immune system. There's clove, that is loving. It is an Ayurvedic remedy for treating cold and cough, for treating nausea, vomiting, and again it builds a shield against your body and provides us with a good immunity. There's cinnamon, that is dalchini, which is rich in antioxidants and gives a boost to the immune system and reduces the chance of infection. There's garlic, which contains a compound which can help immune system wipe out various infections, and to name a few. So the Indian spice box is also very, very rich source of immunity, and we incorporate the spices almost every day in our day-to-day life. Moving on to the immunity boosting recipes, here I have listed down some very, very common and easy to make recipes. So there's turmeric milk, that is haldi ka doodh. There's turmeric tea. There's kava tea, which is made by adding various spices like turmeric, loving, cinnamon, black pepper, lemon, etc. Other options also include normal masala chai, ginger tea, orange juice, nimbu pani, dry fruit milkshakes, smoothies, etc. Orange juice and nimbu pani are very, very rich sources of vitamin A. So you can have 1 to 2 glasses of them every day. There are soups like lemon coriander soup, there's mixed vegetable soup, carrot tomato soup, and other options like carrot pumpkin soup, spinach soup, broccoli soup, and carrot ginger soup. There are pot recipes like khichdi. Now, khichdi is the best immunity boosting meal that we can get. It's a combination of cereal pulse, provides us with good quality of protein, and a little bit of ghee makes it a perfect meal. There's one pot pulao, which is rich in all the vegetables. There's lemon rice, and other options include tomato rice, beetroot rice, lemon rasam, palak khichdi, and also pickles on the side. Because pickles are also immune booster, and they are also good for our gut health, which is our stomach health. But you want to know the best immune boosting recipes? So according to me, a simple balanced meal cooked the right way with the right quality of ingredients, oils, and a variety of spices is an immunity boosting superfood itself. So what we eat on a day-to-day basis that is homemade is perfectly immune booster for me. Now, moving on to guidelines for children nutrition. Now, addressing children's nutrition is very important because India today is facing a dual burden of malnutrition, which consists of both undernutrition and overnutrition. I have interned in a pediatric hospital, and I know how difficult it is to change children's habit and their behavior towards food. But I've tried to give some strategies ahead for the parents to feed their child with proper nutrition. Guidelines, there are no predefined guidelines as such which are available for children. However, following guidelines are given by WHO, which is increasing the consumption of fruits and vegetables as well as legumes, whole grain and nuts, limiting the energy intake which is coming from total fat and shift the fat consumption away from saturated fat to unsaturated fat. Saturated are the bad fats for your body. They increase the cholesterol level, they increase the lipid profile, and are another risk factor for your cardiovascular diseases. Unsaturated fat, they promote a healthy heart. So it is better to shift from unsaturated fat to unsaturated fatty acids. One should limit the intake of sugar. I'm not telling to completely restrict it or avoid it, but definitely moderating the amount of the key. Daily 40 to 60 minutes of physical activity is recommended for children any day because they are in a growing age. They need to do perform physical activity, and they should at least consume 3 major meals per day. So why should you promote good nutrition among children? Because the children do not eat the right amount of micronutrients like protein, fat, carbohydrate, and micronutrients like vitamin A, iodine, iron, and zinc. They may become ill and have delayed mental or motor development, which can have enduring adverse effects beyond childhood or during adulthood. And healthy nutrition strengthens the learning potential and also the well-being of children, making adulthood and aging easier. This is a My Plate guide for children and kids. So this is how exactly a plate of a child or a children should look like. It should contain a good amount of vegetable, a good amount of grain, at least one fruit per meal, protein, protein should be present, and a source of dairy should also be present. Apart from that, the child should be physically active. Now, feeding strategies. So, these are some of the feeding strategies that I have experienced and while I was working in a pediatric hospital. So, first is to involve your children in meal preparation. Plan a simple meal, plan a meal that your child can help you with. So, involve them in your meal preparation. Let them know about the food. Let them know how you have to make it and make the process fun and easier. Modify the food. Do not offer same food again and again. If you're giving khichdi today, try to give another form tomorrow. Add varieties in the diet. Do not feed them the same food again and again. It makes it very boring. Schedule a structured meal pattern. From a meal pattern, make sure that the child eats all the meals, especially breakfast, when he or she starts their day. Reintroduce foods often to them. Suppose you have made them fed the broccoli last week. Make sure you reintroduce the same food again and again so that they don't forget the taste of how the food tasted. Expand their palates, like I told, offer variety. We have so many diversity in foods, so make sure you include a lot of variety options for them. Serve as a role model. It is not possible that on one side you as a parent are eating French fries and you are expecting your child to eat a roti sabzi. So make sure you serve as a role model. You also start eating healthy. You also eat healthy and nutritious meals along with them. Establish some family rules like eating together and not using phones and television. This is very, very important. I've been interning and every day I've been receiving this complaints only that ma'am, my child does not eat if I don't offer a phone or television. So don't do that. Don't give them a reward. Don't tell them that if they eat, you will get to see TV, you will get to use the phone. Don't do that. It is very, very harmful at their age. Make sure you as a family eat together. Make the meal times fun. Do not force feed the child. If the child doesn't want to eat, it's okay, leave it. And if possible, let the child serve their own food. Let them serve their own food. They'll get an idea of how much they want to eat, and they'll probably finish what they have taken. And again, be patient and be very, very relaxed because your child will not establish any kind of eating habits in just one day. So as a parent, you have to be patient and relaxed. Now, moving on to the general dietary guidelines for normal adults or Indians. These guidelines are recommended by the National Institution of Nutrition, that is NIN, which is a powerful institute in the field of nutrition. So, first is limiting the fat intake to 20 to 25 grams, that is 4 to 5 teaspoons, on the normal regular spoons that we have in our kitchen. And we see a lot of incidents these days that people at a very young age are dying because of heart attacks, cardiovascular problems. What is the reason for it? It's the obesity which comes from the intake of unhealthy fats like trans fatty acids, like fried foods, packaged foods, bakery products. So it is recommended to have more of unsaturated fatty acids like Mufa and Mufa. Some of the sources include olive oil, peanut oil, canola oil, avocado, nuts and oilseeds, sunflower oil, safflower oil, etc. Also, with the Western world, everybody is also being afraid of ghee. So I would like to specify here that ghee is not bad for your body. Eating it in excess is definitely harmful. Eating anything in excess is definitely harmful, but ghee is not bad for your body. So don't run away from ghee. Make sure that you add at least ghee in your each and every meal because it can help in weight loss by mobilizing the fat. It can give you a feeling of satiety, which can prevent overeating. It relieves constipation and also has many skin-related benefits. Use combination or rotation of oils. Do not reuse the oil more than once. It turns into trans fatty acid. Now this is a common practice that I see almost in every household. I have fried pakoras in one oil. The oil is remaining. I again use the same oil for frying. Do not turn that. Do not do that because when you use the same oil again and again, it develops a toxic compound, which is not fit for human consumption, and it can lead to many diseases like cardiovascular diseases, Alzheimer's diseases in future. So I'm not telling you to throw that oil away. Of course, you cannot throw such an amount of oil. All you have to do is when you have used a particular oil for frying, make sure you filter that oil and you use that oil for making sabzis and for making parathas and rotis. Don't reuse the same oil for frying. Limit the intake of sugar to less than 20 grams per day. That is again 4 to 5 teaspoons. And how can you begin it? Simple and the most easy step: cut down 1 teaspoon of sugar in your tea gradually. If you're habituated to take 3 spoons, from tomorrow try taking 2 spoons per day, and that is how you can reach your goal. Limit the intake of salt to 5 grams, that is 1 teaspoon per day, because excessive salt can lead to a spike in blood pressure, causing hypertension. So avoid papad, pickles, and use of table salt. 2 glasses of milk and 1 bowl of curd should be included because they are rich source of protein and calcium which are required for proper bones. And when I here say avoid, I don't mean completely eliminating it from diet. I just mean moderating the amount and not eating them in excess. Combination of cereal pulse provides good quality protein for vegetarian people. So like I mentioned, khichdi, which is a combination of rice and dal, hando, which is a combination of rice and dal. There are various recipes which are combination of rice and dal. For a vegetarian, it is the ultimate source of protein. It is a complete protein which your body requires. And also there is this misconception that eggs are high in cholesterol and one should not consume egg yolks and one should only stick to egg white. But no, 2 to 3 eggs per day is fine because the yellow part, that is the egg yolk, is also rich in vitamins and nutrients. So it is important to consume that also. So make sure you consume 2 to 3 eggs per day. Adequate consumption of fruits and vegetables is required. So at least 400 grams, that is 5 portions of 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day are required. Always include vegetables in your meal. Eat fresh fruits and raw vegetables as snacks. Eat fruits and vegetables which are in season and choose a variety of fruits and vegetables. Stay hydrated. Drink at least 8 to 10 glasses of water every day. Now, you getting thirsty is the sign given by your body that your body is already dehydrated. So don't wait for your body to give that sign. Don't wait for you to be thirsty. Set a goal that per day you will at least consume 8 to 10 glasses of water every day, because again dehydration has a lot of negative impacts. So make sure you don't let your body give that sign to you. And I think I've spoken about the importance of exercise enough, that indulging oneself in at least 45 minutes of physical activity every day. Now, here is the conclusion and the to-do list to remember for all of you. Fueling up your body the right way and not making it starve. Food is one of the intense pleasure in life. Don't let your body starve. Fuel it the right way with the right proportion, right quality, and right quantity of food. Eat a well-balanced diet without compromising on taste and nutrition. You can make healthy recipes. You can make nutritious recipes which are tasty and which are very, very palatable enough. Uh, be mentally, emotionally, and physically fit, because the definition of health is not only absence of disease or infection, it also involves being mentally, emotionally, and physically fit. Hydrate yourself well, sleep well, and indulge in some kind of physical activity. And appreciate yourself for small victories. Be consistent and patient, especially if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to adapt a healthy lifestyle. All this will not happen overnight. All this will not happen in one week. It takes a lot of time to change one lifestyle, to shift from one eating pattern to another eating pattern. So even if you consume 8 glasses of water every day, that is also a big achievement for you. So celebrate that, be consistent, and just be patient. And I would like to end that wellness is often conceptualized in terms of being physically fit, but it is much more. And it is a multi-dimensional process which includes various parameters like physical, which is taking care of our body, mental, which is being mentally fit, stable, not being depressed, stressed, spiritual, connecting to the power of God or any power which can be visible or not visible, emotional, being happy and enthusiastic about oneself, social, having an environment which is positive, having a work environment which is positive, wherein you can interact with your colleagues, having a group of friends and families who you can reach out to any day, and of course the surroundings that we live in. All this together forms the wheel of wellness, which we in our language call it as holistic wheel of wellness. And when it comes to food, food is the common parameter which connects all the parameters, which connects all the dots. So make sure you be emotionally, physically, environmentally, socially well. And like I mentioned, that post webinar, some challenges are gonna come up. So keep calm because the challenge starts tomorrow. Thank you for your patient hearing, and would be more than happy to answer queries or doubts and help you live a healthier lifestyle. And here are my contact details.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Margi.
Thank you, sir.
So what we do is, if you can just stop sharing, all of us can have a look at each other. Thank you so much. And this was indeed an informative presentation. We all got to know that, yes, there are a lot of things that we all can do. And somewhere we have to start. And you have definitely given us a great placeholder. And we would like to start, take up the challenge. Definitely.
Yes.
So one of the interesting thing Margi has put up for all members of TMI community is we are going to have one challenge, what, every week, or how is it? How is the
It
frequency?
will be posted after every 2, 3 days, after interval of every 2, 3 days.
Every
So
2 to 3 days
first
we are
challenge will
going
be
to have.
posted tomorrow.
So there is a series of challenge which would come up on our LinkedIn page. So kindly follow our LinkedIn pages. These are good habits. I mean, let us say, if she is saying that, okay, drink 10 glasses of water, that would definitely help your body, and eventually with the help of gamification and challenge, you would get benefited, and that is how the idea of these challenges. So thanks for this, and let us have questions. So request
I can
each
see
one of
one
you to.
question here. Should I take that up?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
So, Ninad is asking, can you give some examples of saturated fatty acid? Some examples include palm oil, coconut oil, butter. Then you have whole fat dairy products, which are very, very rich in fat. And there's red meat, and which definitely one should avoid. Again, I'm telling avoiding is consuming them in moderation, say in once in a month or once in 2 months, not completely eliminating from your diet. And they are trendy superfoods because they are palatable. Why are they palatable? Because they are rich in salt, sugar, and fat, and that is what makes the food palatable. So that is why they are trendy. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, does it answer your question, Nina? If you can just put on your mic, put on your video.
How many peanuts can you consume per day? Peanuts are good sources of MUFA and PUFA. So a handful of nuts and oilseeds along with peanuts are good enough to go. So you can definitely consume at least one serving of them. Say a wristful every day. Homemade butter, yeah, homemade butter is much better than the processed butter because it is the processed butter that we get outside is rich in salt. So the homemade butter, the pure white makhan is not. So definitely homemade butter is a good option. If you are making it at home, it is a better option. No, I would like to clarify that green tea. No, please stick to your masala chai. Green tea, the detox drink, the detox green tea is all just a myth. Obviously, it can help you detoxify your body, but you will not get the pleasure you have when you will not get the pleasure when you when you drink a masala chai when you drink compared to when you drink a green tea. So it is true that it helps in boosting your immunity. It is true that it helps you boosting. It is good for detoxification, but it is not definitely better because, like I mentioned, that normal masala chai is itself an immunity booster food. So recent research seems to suggest that fats are better for diabetics than carbs. Could you advise? I have not come across any such research because I myself study medical nutrition therapy for each disease. But again, like I would like to reinforce that 25 grams of fat, that is 4 to 5 teaspoons per day, is completely fine. You can add one teaspoons, 2 teaspoons of your fat in every meal. And when it comes to carbs, there are refined carbs like maida and the processed carbs, which can increase the glucose level. But if you choose complex carbs like jowar, bajra, barley, they are very very fit for the glycemic index. So there's this thing that when you add fat to your meal, it reduces the glycemic index, the thing which is responsible for increasing your blood sugar level. So in that way, it is beneficial. The best veg foods for iron intake. There's spinach, there's moth beans, tolly, then there is dates, there's walnuts, there is chickpeas, rajma, chole. All that are rich sources of iron, so you can incorporate them in your day-to-day diet. Is mustard oil good for cooking, which is best for high cholesterol patients? Yes, mustard oil is fine. And when it comes to cholesterol and all, I cannot just give a blanket prescription because I need to go through the reports. I need to go through the nutrition assessment. So I cannot just give a blanket prescription here. I use ghee for cooking as well. It is okay. It should be replaced with some. No, it's fine if you use ghee for cooking. Like I told, if you cross your limit, if you move to some 15 or 20 spoons of ghee every day, then it is a problem. But if you are sticking it in moderation, I think it is not a problem. So it's fine. It is bad to add sugar in your regular milk, or we can do it in slight quantity. Of course, it is not bad. Like I mentioned, 4 to 5 spoons of sugar is perfectly fine. If you want to go for any other healthy substitute, there's dates, there's jaggery, there's honey. But when honey or jaggery are also consumed in excessive amount, it can lead to increase in your blood sugar level. So it all depends on the amounts you take. So if you are adding 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar in your milk, it is completely fine.
And peanut butter. Good
Yes,
for
I cannot hear you. Your voice is very low.
peanut butter is good for
Peanut butter, yes, it is a good source for those who are planning for muscle gain, for weight gain. So you can definitely have it with the bread and all. And again, excessive consumption is not good. So maybe 2 to 3 servings per day is fine.
okay. Thank you, ma'am.
How much honey can a diabetic consume? Again, honey will also lead to an increase in blood sugar level. It is not that only sugar can lead. Both honey, jaggery can lead to an increase in blood sugar level if you consume it in more amounts. So 4 to 5 teaspoons of honey is also fine. One should consume whole wheat flour roti or multigrain flour roti. Whole wheat flour is also fine, but it is better to incorporate complex carbs in your diet. So you can better try combinations of wheat plus jawar, wheat plus barley, wheat plus ragi. So it can help you meet it can be more beneficial. Is drinking warm or hot water better than drinking normal water? Yes, definitely. I think the normal lukewarm temperature water is fine. And like we all know that the pandemic has also made us realize the importance of drinking warm water and hot water. But again, I would like to clarify that there is a myth that when you drink a hot water, the virus gets eliminated. There's nothing like that. So please don't go under that influence of drinking hot water. But it is better than the normal water. Can diabetes be cured with the help of food? Yes, definitely, definitely. Diabetes can be cured with the help of food and specific diet. Can we have 15 almonds per day or 15 is excess? You mean the 15 number or the 15 gram?
15 number.
No. 15, the 15 number is too much. It is better to have some 4 to 5 almonds per day. And you can always use a combination of nuts and seeds when you're planning to have. A habit is full of nuts and seeds every day, which can include almonds, cashews, walnuts, anjeer, peanuts. So it is better that way. Tulsi patta, yes, tulsi patta is also beneficial for immunity. You can add it in your, we also add it in our chai. We also have it in the form of juice. So that is also beneficial for boosting your immunity.
Ma'am, after uh, or not?
I cannot hear you. Your voice is breaking.
After medicine,
Ah,
taking water is good or bad?
I can again not hear you. Can you type your question in the chat window? Your voice is breaking a lot. Okay, so what to have in a healthy breakfast? Okay, so if you're vegetarian, you have the patent breakfast like upma, poha, oats chilla, moong dal chilla. You have South Indian items like dosa, which are fermented food, which are also probiotics, which can help you, which maintains your gut health. Our gut health is basically our stomach, and our stomach is 80% related to our immunity. So the more healthier you eat, the more healthier your gut is, the more healthier your body is. So upma, poha, oats, overnight soaked oats. There's South Indian foods like idli, dosa, and uttapam. All of these are good source of breakfast. And if you're non-vegetarian or vegetarian, you can have French toast, omelets, burji, egg burji. You can have chicken sandwich, whole vegetable sandwich, egg sandwich.
Hello, Margi.
Yes,
Thank you for the presentation. It was very good, but I would like you to throw some light on the lifestyle approaches or how to read the nutrition labels,
oh yes,
as the
correct.
theme is eat right bite by bite. So many people need to know that how should they know which food is right according to the nutrition labels.
Yes. So I don't know if all of you have this habit of checking the nutritional labels or not, but it is very important when you go out to buy anything. You first read the nutritional label. So the nutritional label, the front part of it contains the claim that a product is making, which is basically it is rich in calcium, it is rich in iron, or etc. But sometimes those claims cannot be true. So make sure that what you're buying, you are doing a good amount of research and buying it. At the back side, you see a column of nutrition values, a table, which has a value of serving. Say, for example, for one serving 100 gram, a table is given. So you make sure you check that table and you see that the content of sodium and fat and sugar is not high. So make sure you pick those food products which are not high in salt, sugar, and fat. And there is ingredient list. So you can check the ingredient list also. Sometimes in terms of breads and baking products, they write whole wheat refined flour, but that is nothing but maida. They just add whole wheat behind. So that is the gimmick that they play. So make sure that you check the ingredients label. Make sure that you check the logo of FSSAI. FSSAI is a community or the association which tells you that a particular food is safe for human consumption. So make sure that the product has a logo of FSSAI. Check for allergens. Many people are allergic to peanuts. Many people are allergic to soya bean. So sometimes those are not mentioned on the product. If you see the ingredients list, they have mentioned peanuts, soya bean, etc. So make sure if you're allergic, you check the ingredients list thoroughly. And I think that's all you need to keep in mind when you are buying a food product.
Well done, Margaret. Thank you.
Uh, uh, Okay. Is it true that brown rice has lesser calories compared to white rice? No, both of them have the same calories. Probably brown rice is a healthier option because it is rich in fiber. But again, here the question of affordability comes into picture. Not everybody can afford brown rice because number one, it is very expensive. Number one, we don't get it very easily. And if you want to have white rice, you can definitely have white rice because there are ways which you can have instead of boiling your rice in a pressure cooker. You can steam them. You can remove the excess water after the rice are boiled properly. You can have rice in the form of khichdi pulao, wherein a lot of vegetables are added. So it makes a whole rich fiber rich dish. So it can prevent a spike in blood sugar level. But hello,
Ma'am, just one doubt.
yeah.
You talked about affordability of brown rice. So red rice is cheaper and has fiber. Is it not true? Red rice is cheap also. So can we not have that Kerala red rice?
You can have that, but I'm talking about the general population here that not everybody likes the taste of brown rice. Not everybody can afford brown rice. So if you have that facility to buy, and if you like the taste, you can definitely switch for it because it is a healthier option any day. But here I'm just talking about the general population and the tips which can increase a better consumption for white rice. How to avoid iron deficiency? Again, you need to consume foods which are rich in iron. Sometimes the food is not the only cause. There are many other reasons responsible. So you need to get your blood test done. You need to get your test done, hemoglobin test done. The root cause needs to be identified. And if food is the cause, definitely it can be reversed with the help of iron-rich foods. Which medicine taking hot water is good or not? Yeah, I think it's fine. It's fine. Ragi with milk, how healthy it is? It is good because both are rich sources of calcium. Ragi is also one of the rich sources of calcium. Milk is also one of the rich sources of calcium. What is the ideal quantity of curd one should have? I eat curd as well as buttermilk. Curd, buttermilk, two balls are completely fine because they are probiotics. They are very good for our gut health. So they help maintain a better stomach lining, a better gut health, which is in turn related to a healthier lifestyle. So two bowls of curd and buttermilk is completely fine. Can I have soaked date, dried apricots, monica, black raisins, strawberry within the space plus three? Standard breakfast. I don't think that you should replace your meals with nuts and oilseeds, according to my opinion. With a breakfast, it is better to consume a breakfast which is rich in macronutrients like carbohydrate, proteins, and fat. You can definitely have this as a part of a mid-morning meal or a snack, but not replace it with breakfast because breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So, in my opinion, you should not replace it with breakfast. How amount of fat can be labeled as high? I think more than 5% or 10% in a label is high when it comes to nutritional label. So you should check for that. Can you suggest a sustainable diet? Keto, GM, all these are not reliable diets. Do not go into this myth of all the fat diets that are going on. Keto, intermittent, GM is all very short term. A sustainable diet, like I mentioned in my previous slide, a balanced nutrition meal. That's it. I can give you an example of how I plan a diet for my patient or client. So a day starts with lemon water or hot water, which is followed by a healthy breakfast, which includes mainly poha, upma, and a fruit. Along with that, a fruit. Then there's mid-morning, which is nuts and oilseeds. You can consume nuts and oilseeds. You can consume forages. You can even consume dry fruit laddus as a part of your mid-morning meal. Lunch, stick to your patent lunch: roti, dal, chawal, sabzi, salad, curd, buttermilk. Stick to that. For snacks, you can always opt for healthier options like roasted chana without salt, makhana. You have coconut water, buttermilk. You have vegetable juices, fruit juices. But it is better to consume whole fruit as a whole. So for snacks, you can definitely opt for a fruit plate. For dinner, go for lighter meals. Do not go for heavier meals because since we do not have much of activity during that time of the day, Go for lighter meals like handwa, mukhya. There's oats chilla. You can also have oats with milk. You can have dokla. You can have South Indian dishes like idli sambar, dosa, uttapam. Just plan a lighter meal. Khichdi can also be given as a part of dinner. And if you want to end your day, you can always have a glass of turmeric milk. So this is what a sustainable diet looks like, just sticking to normal traditional food that we are eating. There's no rocket science involved here. It's just the quantity, the proportion, and the choice of food that we make is what makes it sustainable. So is it good to eat rice and wheat at a time? Can we have wheat in lunch and rice in dinner? I would prefer to have rice in lunch and wheat in dinner because, like I told, rice takes a lot of time to digest, and at night we don't have so much of movement or activity. So we might feel fuller, and the digestion process might be hampered. You can definitely have it in lunch. And when it comes to eating together, you can, but the amount should be coordinated well. You can have two small rotis with one little bowl of rice. It's fine.
Okay, so we have reached the end of the chat. If anyone would like to ask a question, request you to kindly put on your camera and you can ask a question. Okay.
My
Great.
pleasure, my pleasure. I'm always, I mean, you can always contact me on LinkedIn. I run a page on Instagram. So for all the youngsters who are here, I run a page called Health Stories. So they can DM me there. Otherwise, you can email me. Definitely, I will be ready to give any suggestions, anything.
So that would be really good. If you can just type in your email in the chat so that the attendees, if they would wish to approach you on email, they can approach you. So this has been indeed, I mean, I would say informative and engaging session as usual. Thanks for delivering such a wonderful session. And I especially liked when you attended to each of the queries, and that is where definitely audience got benefited today. So thank you so much for that.
Also, I would like everyone to join in for the challenges. The challenges are very simple. It does not require any fancy ingredients, any hard work. So it's very, very simple. And they are such challenges which can help you live a healthier lifestyle once you start adapting it. So I would really appreciate if people join in for the challenge from tomorrow.
Yeah, so challenge starts tomorrow. So kindly look out for TMI Communities page on LinkedIn. I have already shared the link. I would be sharing it once again as well. So thanks for that. Stay
Thank
tuned
you very
for
much.
our other events as well. I have also shared the membership information. So feel free to become a member of TMI community. We have webinars on weekly basis. Every Saturday at 5 o'clock, we have webinars on various topics. This month, we are going to have a webinar on 4 topics. These topics are one is agile, another one is speed reading, third one is stress management, and fourth one is mind map. So how you can get familiar and learn how to use mind maps. So these are the webinars for this month. And I would request Sanjeevani, if you can if you can put on your camera and extend vote of thanks on behalf of TMI community. Sanjeevani, are you there? Yeah. You need to unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So thanks a lot, first of all, Maudi, for a wonderful session. And on behalf of all the CMA community also who spared their time at 9:30 p.m. That is also great of all of you. And thanks to all of you also for the active participation. The question and answer session, especially in today's session, was great. And Margi, now to you. Wonderful session, crisp communication, and also the way you handled all though Chintan has already mentioned, but I'm still reiterating because you wonderfully delivered the content and then you actually handled all the queries of all the individuals. And we'll look forward to your challenges, of course.
Definitely. I'm looking forward for the participation.
Also, we'll further such sessions in like greater details to
Definitely,
you because
definitely.
it was quite crisp and I'm sure all the members appreciated it. So really look forward to all the members participating in challenges actively and reaching out to Margi as she told email as well and feel free to like be in touch with her and so that I'm sure Margi would feel really excited to see all of them following her.
Definitely, definitely. And it was a pleasure delivering session here. And thank you so much, everybody, for the active participation and response.
And last
Thank
words
you.
from
And
I especially loved your session. I didn't know about it, so I just joined late, and I really loved it because in the lockdown I was following all sorts of from different places, and there were lots of confusion. So at a
Yes,
first, lovely session, doing such sessions because there are a lot of subjects you can still cover. So we look forward to interacting with you
definitely,
more.
definitely. You can always give me suggestions for the topics or the suggestions or that you want me to cover. So maybe I can work on them.
And the enthusiasm on your face, that's a big, I wanted to compliment you. So the
Thank
enthusiasm and energy you brought to the session, really motivating me to thanks a lot and have a nice evening. And
thank
that's
you.
all.
Thank you
And
so
thank
much.
you
Sanjeevani,
all the
thanks, Sanjeevani. Thank you so
thanks.
much. And definitely, I would wish to capture concluding remarks by Dhaval Bhai. Uh, so, Dhaval Bhai, over to you. Kindly share your concluding remarks for the session. Margi is Dhaval Bhai's daughter. So, it is a moment of pride for a father to share a concluding remark on this successful session. So over to you, Dhaval, if you can put on your camera.
I am outside, so I'm not putting my camera. But wonderful session. She was a bit nervous as I was out for some other meeting. Then I had to tell her that don't worry, you have better confidence than me, and then that's what she has proved. Wonderful session, and then I am hardcore follower of her advices, and I have also put off about 4 kg weight in last 6 months. Although I gained bit due to lockdown, but with the current walkathon and all those things, I'm again getting the momentum on reducing the weight. But
So if
I
you
mean,
can,
I also appreciate the way she could manage the query handling and the way
yes.
confidently she was handling. I mean, it's a moment of proud for me as well. Well
Thank
done,
you
well
so
done, well
much.
done.
Thank you so much, Dhaval Bhai, and thank you so much, Margi, for this excellent initiative for delivering this session and sharing this wealth of knowledge. Dhaval Bhai, would you like to spend 30 seconds on our walkathon and share what is walkathon with the audience
Yeah,
in your words?
so Walkathon is again the baby of Chintan. It started on 11th May, and we started with 10,000 steps a day challenge, and slowly it has got momentum. And just a minute, give me a second.
Yeah. So what we do is we take this challenge to walk 21 kilometers in 2 days' time. So the challenge starts midnight on Saturday, which is like 00 hours on Saturday. 2 hours from now, 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours from now, and then afterwards, what we do is we uh, walk during morning hours whenever we get time, and then our target is to total 20, to achieve a target of 21 kilometers. So this is the kind of challenge we take. A lot of people across the world are joining in. One last event we had participation from 21 cities across the globe. So this is the kind of challenge I would encourage you and challenge you to take up this challenge. Yeah, Dhawal bhai, go ahead. I guess you are
I mean,
trying to say
it's
something.
a very engaging activity, walkathon, and then it keeps fit. And then if I narrate my experience in last 100 days, more than 100 days, I might have missed only 10 days or 11 days for 10,000 steps, and I walked about say 13 lakh steps, 13 lakhs, 1 3,
1.3 million.
1.3 million steps. So 10,000 steps is now becoming a cakewalk. I mean, a lot of people are still finding it difficult. I mean, I keep talking to many people, but they are finding it difficult. But
There are ways to walk 10,000
yeah,
steps a day, and we have mastered that art,
yeah,
right?
yes, we have done PhD in that.
We have that thing. So, anyway, thanks for sharing these words. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for
Thank
joining
you.
in, and let me stop the recording now.
Yeah, we meet